You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 208. Being mean to yourself is not required to get over your ex. Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, Breakup Coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, beautiful brave hearts. How are you doing today? I am having a beautiful day. I'm actually recording this on a Friday. I started the day with an acupuncture appointment with my girl, Erin. She is amazing. She specializes in fertility. And actually, today is the day I officially started my egg freezing journey. And I am so excited to talk more about that. We're definitely going to have more on breakups and the biological clock we as women have. And I can't wait for that episode. It's going to be super fun to talk about. So today we are actually talking about something that feels really counterintuitive. It actually kind of reminds me of my personal trainer and what she's been doing with my food. I've been working on losing weight that I gained during pregnancy and the miscarriage from stress and trauma. And it was interesting because I've been tracking my macros and trying to hit like a certain protein goal each day. And as I did that, I noticed myself getting extremely hungry throughout the day. And when you're losing weight, it might sound counterintuitive to increase your calories, but actually, for me, in my specific situation, she mentioned it's very helpful for my metabolism and making sure that my body isn't in fight or flight mode or trying to store anything based off of my cortisol levels and things like that. So that's been a fun journey, but increasing calories as you lose weight in my mind kind of feels a little counterintuitive. And today's topic feels kind of similar. So I had a client come to me and she was feeling extremely discouraged about herself, disappointed about herself. Something with her ex came up. He reached out or he saw her in person, maybe even both, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. And she came to me saying, I shouldn't be affected by him. Now, when she was saying this, we were talking on a Zoom call together. After a whole week of written coaching communication inside of the Get Over Your Ex program, we were doing work back and forth all week inside of the program. And then we had a coaching call, I think, on a Saturday, and I got to coach her face-to-face on Zoom. And what we found was extremely profound. And I thought I needed to do a whole podcast episode on this topic because she was not seeing how impactful and detrimental and kind of damaging the two thoughts that she kind of was stating as if it was weather. She was talking to me about them in a way that felt really true to her, right? Very factual. And she totally believed them and didn't realize that they were thoughts. And we've all been there, right? I mean, even just knowing that thoughts are optional, right? That we don't have to believe that. This is the data I have, and that's not what I have to believe about this. It's very eye-opening. And if you're new here, welcome. Thoughts create feelings, and all of the thoughts that you think are actually optional. And a lot of times you're thinking thoughts that feel like facts that aren't actually facts. So let's talk about this first thought that kept coming up for her that we were coaching on all week, because this is really going to set the stage for why she was feeling affected by her ex, okay? So the thought that we were really working on untangling for her and questioning and looking at together was this idea that she's lost connection with herself. The data she was using to tell me that this was true was that she worked on the program for 3 or 4 days a week instead of 7. She wasn't checking in and self-soothing. There were a couple of other things, but we've all been there where we can see our habits, rituals, and routines have been kind of relaxed more so than other times in our life, especially after going through a breakup. I noticed that my clients get in this kick of being super rigid, super habitual, creating new healthy patterns for themselves. And then the moment they start to introduce a new person into the mix, or they start dating. They're like, wait, how do I keep doing this? How do I maintain this balance between how independent I have gotten and how I feel really good about myself by doing all of these things, and include a new love interest or dating? So I don't really care what your data is. You can use your data, but I can tell you that by telling herself, I've lost connection with myself, will only lead to a self-fulfilling prophecy of losing yourself more. And that's what I just saw over and over and over again the whole week, was that her brain wanted her to be right, and therefore her actions were always in alignment with losing that connection to herself more and more and more. But it all started because she kept telling herself, I've lost connection with myself, based off of my habits and routines have been maybe more relaxed or less than what I'm used to. And it's weird, right? Because it would feel counterintuitive to say, I have a connection with myself, when you are doing the things, or when you aren't doing the things that you used to do to build that connection with yourself. However, saying I've lost connection with myself isn't getting you the result that you want. For my client, when she told herself that, she felt disappointed in herself, which then led to her just being mean to herself. It was horrible to watch. This woman is amazing and powerful and magnetic and awesome on so many levels. And it hurts me inside to see my beautiful, badass clients, every single one of you brave hearts, being so mean to yourself. The negative self-talk, the shooting all over herself. And then that led to losing even more connection to herself because she wasn't being herself. So the solution to this is creating more connection. Well, the solution to creating more connection is counterintuitive. It's going to feel very weird when I say this, okay? I want you to take a moment, if you're struggling with this, to ask yourself, how do I always have a connection with myself? With or without the habits, the rituals, the routines. I want you to think back in the primitive cavewoman days. We didn't have journals. We didn't have courses. We didn't have coaching. We didn't have programs. But do you think that they made that mean I don't have a connection to myself? It kind of reminds me of the Native American culture as I said that. It reminds me of the Native American culture that I was surrounded by growing up. And my experience with it was so connected to nature and how everything worked together as one, and how the connection with spirit was something that was all around you, always and forever. It didn't go anywhere. It was always there. You can hear Mother Earth and Father Sky at any time, anywhere. You can feel her in your home, outside. You can have access to her at all times. And I feel the same way about my connection to myself. All I have to do is stop, breathe, bring my awareness to my body, and almost instantly I'm connected. This is important. What we focus on grows. Focus on your connection to yourself, and you're going to grow more connected to yourself. Focus on the lack of connection to yourself, and you're going to grow more lack of connection. Now, what does any of that have to do with breakups and getting over your ex? It is actually very important. It is a pivotal thing. It's huge in getting over your ex. This concept of losing yourself or of lost connection to myself, I don't think people realize how damaging that it can be and what it spirals out to be. It only perpetuates negative, compulsive behavior that keeps you stuck on your ex. Because when you feel terrible about yourself, you act terrible to yourself, and you'll continue to participate in behaviors that are damaging to you. Now notice, step 1, this client spent a week arguing for her lack of connection to herself, which then led to being affected by her ex. So think about, for the week the week leading up to running into her ex, she's thinking terribly about herself. She's disappointed in herself. And then she sees her ex in real life, and her go-to action is just shoulding on herself. I shouldn't be affected by my ex. And if you've ever listened to the Shoulding Yourself podcast episode, you know that shoulding leads to shame. And shame leads to a negative self-talk pattern that perpetuates the problem. So then she spirals out to thinking about him all the time, hoping for him back, and so on and so forth. That's one option. But I want you to take a look and take a moment to think about if the week leading up to that event, she had noticed the thought, I've lost connection with myself. And instead of arguing for that thought, she said, wow, that's not working. What could I shift into? Instead of arguing for that thought, finding something else. How do I still have connection to myself? And then what if she skipped the disappointment in herself and skipped the negative self-talk, skipped the shoulding, skipped all of the being mean to herself and decided, you know what? I'm figuring it out. Treating herself like she would treat any child that she runs into, right? I'm figuring out how I still have a connection to myself regardless of what habits and routines I've participated in the past. I know what I like. And some of those things, some of those rituals and routines, I want to pick back up again. And I want to learn to manage both dating and self-care routines in a way that's supportive to myself. And you feel how calm that is, right? Perhaps seeing her ex in a calm state where she feels grounded in herself and isn't talking negatively to herself, being mean to herself. Maybe the default thought pattern wouldn't have been, I shouldn't be affected by him. Because if we want to be honest, Bravehearts, she wasn't affected by her ex. She was affected by herself. Her thoughts affected her feelings, right? Indifference and neutrality around your ex is available. But I can promise you that indifference and that neutrality is going to start with the relationship you have with yourself. It starts there. I talk about zero desire for your ex and zero attachment to your ex, and that all plays in, and I teach you exactly how to do that. But I want to tell you that it starts with the relationship you have with yourself. And I want everyone to notice that being mean to ourselves, it doesn't work. Punishing yourself to try and fuel different behavior that you want to be participating in but aren't, that doesn't work. Punishing yourself into submission will not work. It's mean. And when you're mean to yourself, you don't do the things you wish you would do. It's horrible. It's a horrible feeling. It's a horrible experience. And you are and always will be affected by you, not your ex. You've never actually been affected by your ex. When I say that out loud, it's always been your thoughts. And I say that not in a shameful way or you need to go beat yourself up because it's like, what are you doing? But in a way of like, oh, I can do something about this. And it starts with talking kindly to myself. Even telling yourself you shouldn't be affected by something when you were or you are doesn't keep you from being affected in the future by that same thing. It just leads to a shame spiral. The shoulding is always going to lead to a shame spiral to make sure that we continue to be affected by said circumstance, to prove ourselves correctly. So here's the thing. I have 2 solutions, or perhaps maybe you'd call these tools, that I want to share with you today around all of this. The first and foremost and the most simple thing that I can tell you is that we've got to start being kind. Am I being a dick to myself? If I am, please stop it. What's the matter, my love? What can I do for you today? Do we need to take a personal day so we can cry on the couch, love ourselves through this hard time, and then move forward? What do you need? How can I help you? You feel like we need to do more rituals and routines? Cool. What's the plan? How can I help you with that? Start being nice to yourself. don't be so mean. The second thing, and this is really tough love. It's all coming from this really loving place, my friends. But stop simply stating your problems. Start evaluating your problems and then stating solutions. Problem: my rituals and routines and habits are different than I've seen them in the past. Solution: I'm going to add some to my calendar and follow through on them because I've got my own back. And I love how I feel when I execute what I say I'm going to do. Period. There's no being mean to ourselves in that. Problem: I ran into my ex. I love how I showed up because ... I didn't like how after I had the thought ... Solution: I'm going to remind myself of my compelling reasons that I made in the Get Over Your Ex program, along with the thoughts that reduce desire and attachment. Then I'm going to tell myself I did a great fucking job. Again, no meanness or harshness required for any of that. And another way to do this is telling yourself, I affect me. I have control. I have control in this situation. Even if it feels like I'm out of control, I actually am the one in control. So, what do I want to do about this now? What do I want to do about this now? If you find yourself complaining and just stating problems over and over and over again, I highly recommend this question. What do I want to do about this? And what do I want to do about this right now? And a lot of times your brain's going to want to be like, well, I want my ex to change. Boo, I love you so much. What can you do? What do you have control over? And what do you want to do about this now in this present moment? My client Amanda, a while ago, had this amazing statement that she told me. She goes, yeah, I guess I just make a decision and then I execute that decision and then I evaluate the decision. And that's beautiful. When you're in this kind of situation, deciding on what your solution is going to be and then executing your solution and evaluating the solution, none of that requires being an asshole to yourself. None of it requires you to be mean to yourself. No shame, no negative self-talk is required to problem solve, Bravehearts. Isn't that mind-blowing? Isn't that crazy to think about? Like, we don't have to be mean to ourselves to find a solution to something. It is not required. Boom, mic drop. That was my day today. So wild. All right, my Bravehearts. I love you so much. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast for more episodes like this. And if you found any of our episodes helpful, we'd love a written review on the Apple Podcast app to help other heartbroken humans turn their pain into power and their heartbreak into happy. I love you all so much. I hope you have an amazing week. If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.